But first, TSN, rightfully so, celebrating their 35th year in broadcasting. You're not even 35 yet, are you, Claire?
I'm 33.
So you weren't even around. You weren't even around.
No.
Were you around?
I was a couple years old.
You were a couple years old.
Do you remember watching Michael Landsberg on that very first episode ever?
Jim Van Horn.
I think we all did.
The first one, as a 2-year-old, you remember that?
No, of course not.
That's what I was getting at.
My parents probably didn't have the cable package back then.
We had it via satellite 35 years ago, and it was cool. And TSN obviously wasn't what it is now, but it was still pretty darn good. And Jim Van Horn was an icon. I'll have to wait till the cameras go off, but I know some broadcasting legends in this country, and Lynch knows them because he told me that turned down the chance to go on to TSN way back in the day. Really big Canadian sports broadcasting figures that didn't think this was going to last, didn't think it was going to be a thing, and was the worst decision they ever made. But Claire, talk about your tweet this week or your post about being part of this in the 35th year.
Well, I guess I posted it, but what I was going to tell you about was I wasn't on the sidelines this past game. Sarah was from Winnipeg, which was an awesome opportunity for me to see a little behind the scenes stuff. So I actually watched the game from the TSN truck. And because I'm always getting the producer talking in my ear and saying, this and that. And I couldn't believe some of the things that go on in that truck. There's 30 people also in this little truck that's like a heat, it's so hot and sweaty in there if the AC is not working. But they had a couple of the TSN OGs, as you will, who have been there since day one. And that's
original
pretty
guys?
Cool. Yeah. Original gangsters. OGs.
Sorry. Right. Gotcha.
But yeah, we'll go with original guys for you, Rod. They had Joanna. She was one of the people in the truck. She'd been there since day one. And John Hines, the producer, he's been there for a long time. I don't know if he's an original. I don't know if he is, but anyways, he's fantastic. So watching all of that go, and I didn't realize our producer is actually talking to the command center who's giving the cues to the referees and the officials. And you should assume that would happen, but when you see TSN and you watch the officials say, announce whatever the penalty is, we have to cue them. And so I always thought that our producer was just giving all of us talent, like Chris Cuthbert, Glenn Suter, myself, and a whole bunch of people direction. He's also directing the command center, which is unbelievable.
Wow.
That job is insane. And so they've always told me, don't talk during a challenge flag. Don't ask us any questions. Now I know why.
It's like an air traffic controller.
Yes.
Which, by the way, when we were watching Thursday Night Football, myself and a football friend, he talked about the state of CFL officiating and how it's not very good and it's gotten worse. And I'm like, well, for one, he compared it, we were talking about hockey refs. Hockey referees aren't wearing headphones and microphones and these guys are actors now on the stage. So the one thing is the head ref, as it was explained to me, has 8 voices in his head in the CFL. He's got all the other refs on the field. He's got Toronto in the command center. Imagine trying to ref a damn game. And you wonder why there's a slow reaction on a touchdown. Great example is Chris Strebler. Was he in or was he not with 2 minutes? It took an eternity before the ref finally... Because it's not just reffing anymore. Right. It's about the show. It's about how's this going to look. Am I right?
Their priority is clearly reffing and officiating. But when you have distractions in your ear, just like an athlete, if you've got distractions, it takes you away from the play for just a moment. And so they're just making sure they do things on cue sometimes in the appropriate way that's needed. But that's why we watch, because it's an amazing product. It's an amazing show.
And it's pretty cool that TSN has become part of the Canadian culture. It is Canadian culture, actually. And the one thing I remember watching in the early 90s, the National Lacrosse League on TSN, that's what got me interested in the league in the first place, was TSN airing the games because they didn't have anything else to air. And I thought, this is pretty cool what they're doing here. This is entertaining. That's what got me into lacrosse, just because TSN was airing it. It's very similar, if you had to read the book, to how ESPN started. Right. It was just a couple years after ESPN.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.